The Panthers released Cam Newton yesterday, a move that became necessary after they officially completed the Teddy Bridgewater deal, sources told our Adam Schefter. Following his release, Newton wrote on Instagram, "I'm free and hungry." Damian Woody back here with us. Stephen A., sorry I don't have the breaking news graphic for you. I know how much you enjoyed that yesterday. What should be the next move for Cam?
Are you asking
Stephen
me,
A.,
Molly? I
got me?
couldn't hear.
I'm going to say the Chargers.
No.
No, I'm sorry. I thought the question was for Damian. My apologies. I'll answer it. I thought it was, listen,
Yeah.
My attitude is I think it should be the Chargers. If you're Cam Newton, go to California. Play for Anthony Lynn. The fact that you're succeeding Phillip Rivers, who was clearly an immobile quarterback. I often use the joke he was slower than a snail with arthritis, and snails don't get arthritis. The fact of the matter is though even though Phillip Rivers could fling that football, he did throw for over 4,600 yards last year. He did throw for 23 touchdowns. He did complete 66% of his passes. He just threw 20 interceptions in the process. I like Phillip Rivers a lot, and I think he can still play, can still throw the football, but there definitely is some slippage there. And the thing about it is in the modern-day game, you got to be mobile, and he has no mobility whatsoever. You either got to be mobile or you got to get the ball out of your hands inside of 2 seconds like Tom Brady does. That's not something that Phillip Rivers is known to do, so I think that's a problem. If you're succeeding that, by the way, Phillip Rivers has never gone to a Super Bowl. So if you're Cam Newton, who has gone to a Super Bowl, and that's what you're succeeding, you got an opportunity to make noise in L.A. for the Chargers. If you were to go to New England, for example, which is another possibility, you're succeeding Tom Brady. You're succeeding a 6-time Super Bowl champion who's been in the Super Bowl 9 times, who's won 17 division titles in 8 years. There's nowhere to go but down if you are Cam Newton in New England. I don't like that at all. I think the best spot for him to do is to go to Los Angeles to play for the Chargers.
I'd love to see him in New England, but I don't think Belichick wants him. He hasn't made a play for him. And the Chargers, the reason Cam Newton was released is they try to trade him to the Chargers. If the Chargers aren't going to give you a 7th-round pick for him because they like Tyrod Taylor more than him, I don't see him going to the Chargers. I look at Washington. Because whatever you want to say about Cam, and even like Tepper comes in Carolina, gets rid of Ron Rivera, successful head coach. But he's like, yeah, the Ron Rivera-Cam Newton pairing, that's good. I want to try to be great. My hat's off to Tepper for that. But they were good. Ask Washington. Over the last, over Cam's career, would Washington have traded their fortunes for the fortunes of the Carolina Panthers? I would think so. And what are the fortunes of a team, really? The most important two people and relationship, the head coach and the quarterback. He also has his quarterback's coach there now in Carolina. I know they signed Kyle Allen, and if they really do like Haskins, okay, although Haskins is not Ron Rivera's guy. So maybe you just put the band back together in Washington. If you have Ron Rivera and Cam Newton with Kyle Allen backing them up, and you make a team like the one in Carolina, Washington fans would be happy. You get to a Super Bowl, you make a playoff run every now and then, you're in the mix for the playoffs every year. If Cam Newton is most of what he used to be, that's an enormous improvement from where they've been in recent years.
Well, listen, I think the Washington Redskins have no interest in Cam Newton. Listen, I think the sign was they traded a 5th-round pick for Kyle Allen from Carolina. That should tell you all you need to know about the direction that the Washington Redskins are going. Listen, I agree with Stephen A. on this one. I think the Los Angeles Chargers, to me, makes way too much sense. Listen, remember in 2018, the Los Angeles Chargers were 12-4. They were 12-4. It's not like this team was far off, from being a good team. They were a good team back in 2018. The weapons that they have in Los Angeles with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry, Austin Eckler, they got a better supporting cast than the year that Cam Newton won MVP back in 2015. You plug Cam Newton into that offense, and all of this is contingent on Cam Newton being healthy. You plug him into that offense, being the dynamic playmaker that he is at the quarterback position, because like Stephen A. said, in this era of the National Football League, you have to be mobile to a certain degree. And one thing we know about Cam Newton is still one of the ultimate weapons at the quarterback position when he's healthy. And the Los Angeles Chargers, you're moving into a new stadium. Well, what better buzz can you create moving to a new stadium by bringing in a former league MVP in Cam Newton? Say it again?
I don't think they want him. Why didn't they trade for him? They didn't have to give anything up, really. Look, he was released. If they wanted him, they would have traded for him. I think they've determined that Tyrod Taylor's a better option at this point. I don't know. Look, Cam Newton, I agree with you, Damian. They must be terrified physically of where he is right now. And, of course, because of coronavirus, it's not like guys can work out and really prove it to teams. But I'm baffled by it, but were I one of these teams, I'd take a chance on Cam Newton. The reason I think Washington's more likely to, they traded for Kyle Allen. Well, you can kind of recreate what you had in Carolina quickly in Washington. And that gets them to a place where they haven't been in a long time. Going from Phillip Rivers to Cam Newton, in a way, although Phillip Rivers is not as good as Tom Brady and Cam Newton's much better than Jameis Winston, is sort of doing that in reverse. You're going from a very different style pocket passing quarterback who's precise and you know, to more of a like risk-taking kind of quarterback. But in this case, you would think to be upgrading, and yet they're not interested. If they were interested, they'd have done it already. The Chargers.
Well, let me mention one thing, and this actually goes back to, I think Stephen A. said that brought this up yesterday. I think it was a good point. I'm very disappointed in the Carolina Panthers and when
dollars by letting them go in cap space. That's what they said anyway, if I remember correctly. The bottom line is this. You have a situation where you could have let him go earlier. There was an opening in Indy, of course. You know, you got the situation where, you're the Washington Redskins. Of course, you trade for Kyle Allen. You're trying to tell me it's best for Cam Newton to end up back with Ron Rivera, with Kyle Allen, with Dan Snyder swearing up and down that Dwayne Haskins is his guy. I don't know if that's the ideal situation to walk into for Cam Newton. That's why I still say the Chargers. But there is no question. We're saying that, and we're definitive about it in part because of the lack of options available to Cam Newton, because of how late the Carolina Panthers waited to let him go. They disrespected him in that regard. They hurt and diminished his cachet and his marketability at this point in time. And if you do it in the NFL in this day and age at that moment in time, guess what? It's not an accident.
Maybe
you did it on purpose.
Maybe they're surprised as we are that there were no takers. They couldn't get anything for him. I mean, I think that's possible. I hear what you're saying, but I think it's possible that they're like, we're going to get something for him, and found out they couldn't.
Well, he'll certainly have a chip on his shoulder. He said he's free and he's hungry. And obviously, Jameis Winston also looking for a job. Chris Godwin thought he'd be a good fit with the Chargers as well. All right, quick commercial break here. When we come back, more First Take. Stay with us. Magic Johnson.
What the hell happened?
You were talking stuff about my Jay on the promo yesterday.
Yes, I was.
And so you know what I do to you.
I'm going to teach you about this town.
I know business. I know how to win, but I did it my way. If Magic Johnson is in that seat, guys are going to want to come play.
We know you missed the NBA, so who better to jumpstart some NBA debate than the one and only Magic Johnson? The legend will join us tomorrow to discuss all things hoops, including his surging Lakers. Don't miss the Magic Show tomorrow, Thursday, right here on First Take. Las Vegas has an NFL team, y'all. Derek Carr is the starting quarterback for the Raiders. That sentiment courtesy of new Raiders quarterback Marcus Mariota, who told Hawaii-based KHON-TV that it's Derek's team, and I understand that. Mariota has been a starter for most of his career and will earn over $17 million for 2 years with his new team. Stephen A., should the Raiders already be regretting signing Mariota?
Hell yeah. Unless they're the ones that told him it was Derek Carr's team before they signed him. Listen, you're the former number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. I understand you just lost your starting job to Ryan Tannehill, but you're trying to get a new start in Oakland. You ain't going to Oakland, or rather Las Vegas now, and Tom Brady's the quarterback or Drew Brees is the quarterback. You going to the Las Vegas Raiders where Carr's the quarterback. You should be saying, I'm going to compete. May the best man win. I don't want to hear, oh, it's his team. For what? Why? That's my attitude.
I love it. Mariota is doing the right thing here. He said a helpful quarterback room, a supportive quarterback room is important for everybody. So that's what he's doing. But Stephen A., read the writing on the wall. Of course he's there to take Derek Carr's job. The GM liked him since before he was drafted, put him as the number 1 quarterback. The coach, John Gruden, runs a kind of style of offense that's perfect for Mariota. Mariota goes into a situation kind of flying under the radar because he's not saying, hey, we're going to compete for it. I'm the backup. And yet, when all is said and done, he's very likely, unless he screws it up, to be the starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders going forward in the foreseeable future. I think it's a great move.
Coming out of college, he seemed a bit demure, didn't have that aggressive, in-your-face kind of attitude. It's something that's been held against him for years. So to come into that situation in Vegas where he's like, yo, it's Derek Carr's team.
All right.
I don't want to hear that from a guy that I might need to be the
Not
starting
for
quarterback.
long, Stephen A.
To clear it up for America, Tom Brady didn't fall off a cliff. It's a ravine, that courtesy of Max Kellerman, if you want to quote him.